Hi, how are you everyone? This is Paulina, and I'm today at the topic that for myself. Um, I guess you can't hear me. Yeah, I am at my next hopefully this time anyway. This is topic is familiar with
Seems to be working. Yay, okay, finally. Sorry for the technical difficulties. So once again, my name is Paulina. I can already tell that I somehow forgot to spell my name right. It's not Pauline, it's Paulina with an A at the end. I'm a little nervous, you can probably tell. I've never done this before, but what I do quite a lot is I crochet, more as a hobby. So this is why we're here today. And my hope is to show you just some of the most basic crochet stitches. I'm gonna adjust the camera a little bit because there's really no need for you guys to see my face, but you do need to see the tools I'll be using. So the basic crochet tools are, of course, hooks. I happen to have a whole array of hooks. This is because there are different sizes of hooks depending on what type of yarn you're using. For today's session, I suggested a thicker yarn and working with a bigger hook, simply because at the stage when you're learning, it's easier to do with a bigger hook. You will be much faster learning, kind of getting the hang of it, developing a muscle memory. And once you have that down, moving down to other type of yarns, smaller yarns, and little tiny hooks like here will be much easier. So for today, we will be using one of these yarns. So you can see they're not incredibly thick, but they're not thin. By thin, I meant, for example, this is a very thin, tiny yarn. So we'll be using this one. Most yarns, when you buy them, they will not be in a bowl like this. But this is something that I encourage you to do because it's just easier to operate it. When you do buy yarn, most likely it will look like something like this. We'll tell you the color. And most yarn types will have something like this, which will basically tell you, if you are crocheting, the size of the crochet hook, as well as, or if you happen to be knitting, the size of your knitting needles. But this one, for example, is 4 millimeters. Depending on where you are, I'm usually in Lowell, but I'm actually abroad right now, so I bought this outside of US, so the size of the hook. And so since it is 4 millimeters, I will now go back to my handy set of hooks. I'll get my 4 millimeter hook, which looks more or less like this, and we can get started. So the very first thing you should know with crocheting is knowing how to begin, essentially. So creating your very first loop, and then even before we get to stitches, every single crochet row is based on a chain. So this is what we'll do first. Once we have that down, I can show you. My hope is to show you, actually, so here. So this is what a ready chain looks like. This is about 20 chains. So this is how you will be starting every single time. After that, I'll show you how to do a single crochet. So this is what a single row of a single crochet looks like. So I hope to show you that, that's really the most basic stitches, so single crochet. From there, I'm gonna show you how to do, not this one, let me see what I'm looking for. I will show you how to, another stitch, which is the half double crochet. This is a single row of half double crochet, and this is a double row of half double crochet, so that's what we'll move on to. And then my hope is to show you a double crochet, and this is what a single row of double crochet looks like, and this is what a double row of double crochet looks like. So these are the most essential basic type of crochet stitches. If time allows, and we can see, I can show you some more advanced stuff. For example, a beautiful flower stitch like this, or a flower itself. Depending on time, we can choose, or this type of stitch. This is made using single crochet. This is something that you would use, for example, at the end of a sleeve if you're making a sweater. So anyway, going back to the basics, let's start with just beginning. There's many different methods to start. The one I like is basically you hold the yarn like this, then you use two of your fingers like this, you loop it over once, then one more time, except this time you cross it. And you kind of hold it here for a second. Then what you will do, you will insert your hook here, then loop over the second one, and then let go. This will give you the very basic, the very first chain for your crochet. Just in case, I'm gonna go over this again, because this is essential. Without this, you cannot keep going. So again, you take a piece of yarn, two of your fingers here, you loop it once around your fingers, then the second time, except it's when you get to the top, once again, you kind of cross it over, so it creates a little, let's see so it's more visible, a little, let's see, like this, like a cross here. And then what you will do is you insert your hook under the first one, sort of here, and then here, you loop it, and you end up with the very first crochet chain. Then what you want to do is, extend your yarn. You want to loop it around your finger so that you create a sense of tension here. And now we'll just go ahead and do a few chains. So a chain is essentially the idea of taking your hook, going yarn over, pulling it through the loop like this. And this is, at this point, you have one chain. And the idea is to basically keep repeating. So if you have your hook in one of your loops, you yarn over and you pull through. And now we have two chains. And then you just sort of continue, yarn over. By yarn over, just so you can see, I mean to just go sort of like this, and then you pull through the loop. And so you just keep going until you have the desired number of loops. So at this point, we're at, let's see, we are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do another 5. So slowly, yarn over and pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. And I think this is our 10th loop. Yarn over, pull through. I'm going to do one more really slowly. It's I keep forgetting that I should probably go much slower. So just in case, when you have your hook here, you loop yarn over, and then you just loop it through your chain. So so it kind of continues to grow. I will show you the very first type of stitch next. But even after the session, what I would suggest you do, you just basically keep doing this. Keep doing this until you feel like it's muscle memory. So you can just kind of go like this. That's when you'll know you get it. And at some point, don't worry, you really will be able to do it this fast. So now that we have a chain, I can show you how we get to a single crochet. Let me see if I can have an example here. So this is already first row of single crochet. So just like I mentioned before, you always start with a chain. That is your base. Once you have your base and you want to build a row of single crochet, what you will do, wherever you end up, you chain one more, and then from your hook, you count 1 and 2. You insert it into the second, I'm gonna start again because I think the camera was off camera. Okay, so you chain once, and then insert your hook into the second chain from your hook. So 1, 2. The hook is inside. Then you yarn over. You pull it through your chain so that you end up with 2 loops. At this point, you yarn over again and pull through the 2 of your loops so that you end up with 1 loop again. From there, it's pretty simple. You just keep repeating the same motion. If this is your hook, you insert it into the next open chain. You yarn over. You pull through. So once more, you end up with 2 loops. At this point, you yarn over and you pull through, and another single crochet is done. So then you just keep repeating. You find your next open, next open chain. You insert the hook into that chain. You yarn over. You pull through. You end up with 2 loops. Yarn over again and pull through the 2 loops so that you end up with 1. And then again, you put your hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull through, you end up with 2 loops, and you pull through. At this point, I'm gonna pause for just a little bit and maybe see if there's any questions. Seems there are none, so that's okay. We can get to the more advanced stuff. How about we do half double crochet? Just so that I save time, I'm actually gonna get rid of this single crochet here so that I'm back to my base, which is the crochet chain. A half double crochet, once again, when done, looks like this. That's a single row of half double crochet, and this is a double row of half double crochet. So this is what we're gonna do next. And it's actually very similar. Oh, I see a question. How to control tension? That is a very good question. You will do that essentially. So when you have your hook inside a loop, you will use this finger of your other hand to control tension. And I wish I had some sort of specific way of explaining it. Honestly, it's just feeling it out. And the other thing I would say, at the beginning, I wouldn't even worry so much about the tension. Your loops may be uneven, but really at the beginning, the most important thing, at least that's how I learned, was just to develop a muscle memory, to really know how to operate your hook and where to loop it, how many times, etc. Once you have that down, that's when you can start, experimenting more with the tension. So for example, I can show you. Right now, to create this chain, I would say this was sort of like a middle tension, right? If I apply less tension, the loops will just be, this is like very little tension. The loops will just be bigger and more loose. I don't know if you can see the difference. So the last few chains are kind of like less tension, so they're bigger, they're more loose. If I apply a lot more tension, so then I just basically stretch this finger and make this very, very tight. My chain loops will also become very kind of small and tight. So this is kind of so essentially you use this finger to control the tension. But if you apply a lot of tension, this is what you will end up with. See the difference? Let me see. I can turn it over to the camera. Like this is the last few. This is the chain with very sort of tight tension. I'm actually gonna get rid of those only because, especially at the beginning, it's not easy to to learn the next steps if it's too tight. But once you get the basics, really know how to do the basics, that's only then I would suggest that you start experimenting with tension. So moving on to the next type of stitch, the most basic stitch. So far we had the single crochet stitch, now we're going to do a double crochet. So for a double crochet, just like with a single stitch, you chain once. However, this time, once you chain once, even before you insert the hook back into the chain, you yarn over and only then inserted it into the second chain. So 1, 2. This will be your second chain. Just like with single crochet, you insert the hook, you yarn over once, and you pull through. Except this time, you end up with 3 loops on your hook, not 2 like before. For half double crochet, you yarn over once and you pull through all three of the loops. So that once again, you end up with 1 loop. And then to continue, you just keep repeating. You yarn over and insert your hook into the next chain. From there, you yarn over, you pull through, so that once more, you end up with 3 loops. And then you yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So that after a little while, you'll see that it starts forming like a little row. You will also see, so the last couple chains that I did on here, I applied a lot less tension, which is why there's like a little hole here. But again, at the beginning, as you're learning, I wouldn't worry about this so much, because it's just in my opinion, as you begin to learning, it's more important to sort of know how to do the stitches and to sort of develop a muscle memory. And once you do that, you can start experimenting with tension. But going back, so if we continue with half double crochet, so again, you loop over, you insert your hook into the next chain, you pull through, you end up with 3 loops, and you pull through. And so you keep doing that. I'm gonna go a little faster now, only because I wanna show you what the row begins to look like. And since we are at 20 minutes almost in, 20 minutes in the session now, I really wanna show you the next stitch, which is also a very basic stitch, is a double crochet. That's why I'm going a little faster. Just so that we can have a little bit of this, and then I can show you the next type of stitch, which is called double crochet, and it's one of the most basic crochet stitches. So, but at this point, we're still at half double crochet. I'll do a couple more, maybe. More. Do maybe one more really slow. So yarn over, you insert the hook, yarn over, pull through, so you end up with 3 loops, and then you pull through. And this is sort of the beginning of your first row of half double crochet. So if we go back to the sample, you'll see that these two look, so I'm gonna turn this over. So you see the other side, you know, they look very similar. This one just happens to have a second row, and this is what a second row would look like. I'm actually gonna put this one down now. I'm gonna take a different type of, not different type of yarn, actually the same size of a yarn, but just a different color, just for the kicks of it. And I'm gonna show you the double crochet. We're also gonna review how to begin and do a chain, because that's how you also begin. So this is just an opportunity to review real quickly. So to start, you loop your yarn around your fingers like this. You insert the hook underneath here, then you loop through here, and this is how you end up with your first chain. So I'm really quickly gonna chain, I'm gonna do maybe 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll do 5 more. 2, 3, 4, 5. And I would say I basically applied maybe medium tension here. Although truth be told, I didn't really pay that much attention to tension, because just like I said before, I think that at the beginning it's more important to learn the stitches, and then of course that's not to say that tension is not important. It is quite crucial, but I think that's just the next step in the learning journey. So now that we have 15 chain here, we're gonna do the double crochet. And double crochet, wherever you ended up, you then chain additional 2. So 1, 2. And just like with half double crochet, before you insert the hook back into the chain, you yarn over, and then you insert it into the third loop of your chain. So that's just 1, 2, 3. So the third chain of your crochet, and then you yarn over and pull through. Just like before, you end up with 3 loops. The difference between half double crochet and double crochet is that in half double crochet, you'd yarn over and pull through all 3 loops at the same time. This time, because we're doing double crochet, we're gonna yarn over. However, we're gonna pull through the first 2 loops, only, so that you end up with 2 loops. And then you yarn over again and pull through, so you end up with 1 loop. And from there, you just keep repeating. You yarn over, you insert your hook into the next chain, you yarn over and pull through the chain. So that once more, you end up with 3 loops. Then you yarn over once more, you pull it through the first 2 loops on your hook, then you yarn over and pull through the 2 remaining loops. So you just basically keep doing the same thing. You yarn over, you insert your hook into the next available chain, you yarn over, pull through, so you end up with 3 loops, then you yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. So now instead of 3 loops, you have 2. You yarn over and pull through the 2 remaining loops on your chain. I'm gonna do a couple more, just a little quicker, just so I can show you what the first row begins to look like. Yarn over, through, first 2 loops, the second 2 loops, yarn over 1, 1, 1. I see a potential question. We're almost at the end as well. So I will pause here. So this is essentially the beginning of the first row of your double crochet. And I'm going to pause for a couple of questions, if there are any. Are you always, so the question is, are you always going through the second loop down the line? Oh, this is a very good question. That's something I failed to probably explain very well. You only do that with the beginning of your first row. So essentially, I'm just going to go back here to a chain, and let's assume that we're doing a single crochet. So this is only for the first stitch that you add one more chain and go into the second one. Once you're done with that one, from there, you don't skip. You just go into the next available one. It's only for the beginning of the row. So once I started, I don't skip anything. I just put into the next chain. I hope that answers the question. Oh, so next question. What is your favorite thing to crochet? Blankets, hats, clothes, small toys, small lace things. I love this question. So I'd say, I'm sort of intermediate. I'm still learning. And before I answer the end of the question, I should also add that the way I learned is when I was a little girl, my mom taught me the basics, basically the basics that I showed you today. And anything else that I can crochet at this point, I basically learned through YouTube. So let's say I wanted to do a plush toy or a blanket or a sweater. I would just go on YouTube and I would just put it in a search and be like, crochet hat, and see what different patterns are available, and just go from there. But really knowing these 3 basic stitches is, once you know these, then it's really easy to learn. But now to answer your question, so small toys, it's actually a goal of mine. I haven't made any just yet, but would love to learn. Some of the favorite things, at least something that I've been working on right now, are these sort of fall, spring, maybe winter hats, where you start from the middle and you just kind of go around. That's something that I've been sort of working on lately. I would have more examples, except that my entire stash of different yarns are back home in Billerica, and I'm just happen to be in Cape Town, South Africa right now, where I am during the coronavirus lockdown. Airports here, airports and borders are closed here. I would have been back home by now. So I would show you more of these. I made quite a few different hats just like that. In fact, all of my family members got one of those for Christmas this year. There's quite a few other things that are my favorite ones. This past fall, I've been experimenting, and for this, you use a very, very thick yarn. I've actually been making water balloons. It's hard, unless I had a sample, it's kind of hard to show you. But yeah, those 2 things are currently my favorite ones, making hats and water balloons. Fortunately, I don't have the type of yarn to show you how to make it, but if you're ever motivated, YouTube to the rescue. Honestly, if you just type in a water balloon, how to make a crochet water balloon, you will see just how to make it. And I see that we're ready for the next segment. So thank you so much. I hope you did learn something. I'm happy to answer any other questions. If you want to let the administrator know, I can respond by email or otherwise. Thank you.